Who were they? The ones who came before us? What did they fear, love, dream of? For the first time, new evidence lets us stand inside their world. A Neanderthal family, their life frozen in ash and bone, now revived by science. What can a single day in their life tell us about the first people who called Earth home? Stay to the end, because the answer may redraw the line between them and us. The morning air was brittle. The pale sun barely pierced the thick fog of the frozen valley. Frost clung to every rock and shrub, and a thin layer of snow crunched underfoot as the father stepped outside the cave. His breath fogged, merging with the smoke rising from a low, steady fire. In his hands, a spear tipped with flint, sharpened not yesterday but over generations of refinement. Survival was not merely instinct. It was knowledge encoded in the hands and eyes of every adult in this small group. The mother moved among the children, tucking them beneath furs and whispering reassurance. One tiny hand clutched a piece of flint carved into a miniature blade, practice for a life that demanded skill even from the youngest. Archaeologists studying Neanderthal sites such as El Sidrón in Spain and La Ferrassie in France reveal that children learned tool-making early, ensuring the family's survival. These were not idle hands. They were training for life. The air held the scent of smoke, wet stone, and pine. Beyond the cave, mammoths grazed, bison moved like ghosts across the frost, and wolves watched from the tree line. Every day was measured in danger and resourcefulness. The father glanced at the horizon, listening for the faint crack of ice, the snapping of branches, the approach of another predator or another human. We once imagined Neanderthals as brutish and unthinking. Bones and DNA tell another story. They were skilled hunters, clever toolmakers, and deeply social. Their brains, nearly identical in size to ours, were capable of planning, reasoning, and communication. And their emotions, grief, care, empathy, were unmistakably human. How do we know this? At El Sidrón, the remains of a full Neanderthal family, from parents to adolescents, were preserved in limestone and sediment. Isotopic analysis of teeth and bones showed a diet of pine nuts, mushrooms, and cooked meat. Chemical traces revealed that fire was not just warmth, but a method of cooking, processing, and preserving food. They were not survivors by luck. They were engineers of life in a frozen world, and yet a haunting question arises. What did they fear most? Was it the cold, so deep that exposed skin could frost over in minutes? Was it hunger, gnawing and relentless in the months when game became scarce? Or was it the predators, wolves, bears, even other humans, who challenged their claim to survival? The mother, meanwhile, tended the fire and ground medicinal herbs. Modern chemical analysis shows Neanderthal dental plaque containing poplar bark and penicillium fungus, natural painkillers and antibiotics. She crushed the herbs between her teeth, administering them carefully to sick children or wounded adults. A small act, but one that may have saved lives. If you're new here, this is GenealogyX, where DNA transforms history into a living story. Subscribe to discover the ancient codes that built humanity. By mid-morning, the father had gone on a hunting expedition. Tracking a herd of deer across frozen plains, he moved silently, balancing instinct and strategy. His eyes were sharp, his muscles honed by decades of survival. Around him, the tundra was beautiful and deadly. Frost patterns glistened on tall grasses. A thin river reflected the low winter sun, and every shadow might conceal danger. Meanwhile, the mother instructed the children in gathering and tool-making. One child practiced flint knapping, creating small points and scrapers. Another learned to strip bark for cordage. Archaeological evidence shows that Neanderthals used tools, not only for hunting, but also for clothing, shelter, and daily maintenance, a level of sophistication often underappreciated, and yet every skill carried risk. A wrong cut could cause bleeding. A misjudged spear throw could lead to injury or death. Each act of learning was intimately tied to survival. As the day wore on, the family prepared a shared meal. Fire smoke curled into the sky. The meat had been cooked over embers, pine nuts roasted in small pits, Sharing food was not just nourishment but social bonding. Stable isotope analysis shows that meat and plant consumption were carefully balanced, suggesting that Neanderthals understood dietary needs. A question emerges: did they love, grieve, and care for each other as we do? Evidence from Shanidar Cave, Iraq, suggests yes. Burials surrounded by flowers indicate ritual, empathy, and mourning. Infant remains at multiple sites show that children were protected and mourned when lost. These were families, emotional and attentive, bound together by more than mere survival instincts. Imagine the mother singing softly as the wind howls outside, wrapping her child in fur. Words are lost to time, but the emotion is universal. By evening, the father returned with deer. Wolves, curious and wary, circled the cave. Bones from Gorham's Cave in Gibraltar indicate that Neanderthals faced predators regularly and sometimes formed cautious interactions rather than fighting every encounter. Some researchers even propose that early human-wolf relationships may have laid the foundation for domestication far before Homo sapiens arrived. Around the fire, sparks danced across the walls. Traces of soot patterns suggest symbolic behavior, not art as we know it, but intentional marks, hints of communication, ritual, and memory. The Neanderthal brain, capable of language like sound and planning, allowed these families to share knowledge across generations. Genes like FOXP2, similar to ours, indicate they could produce structured vocalizations, perhaps even proto-language. If you could hear them speak, would they sound alien or eerily familiar? Night deepened and danger never fully retreated. Footprints in snow and ice tell the story of injuries, healing, and care. A father who returned wounded received aid from his partner and siblings, as skeletal remains from La Ferrassie show. They wrapped injuries, tended wounds, and stayed by the side of the weak. This is not brute survival. This is community, empathy, and planning. DNA tells us more. Certain MC1R gene variants gave Neanderthals pale skin and red hair, ideal for low-light environments. Other genes regulated fat metabolism and circadian rhythm, helping them endure extreme Arctic-like conditions. The very blueprint of adaptation is embedded in our chromosomes. By dawn, the fire had faded, but knowledge, skill, and resilience remained. Their deaths over thousands of years were not extinction. Neanderthal DNA lives on, in immunity genes, metabolism, and even aspects of emotion. Modern humans carry 1–2% Neanderthal DNA if their ancestry traces outside Africa. And yet, the greatest revelation may be emotional. They loved, taught, grieved, and endured. Not other, but ancestors. Their courage to live, care, and adapt echoes in us still. Imagine standing in that cave today, firelight flickering. Could you hear their questions, their laughter, their fear? Would you recognize yourself in their faces? DNA, archaeology, and science say yes. They are not gone. They live on in our cells, our instincts, our hearts. As the wind howls across millennia, the child of that family once asked the same question we ask today. Will we see the sun again? And in every person carrying a fragment of Neanderthal DNA, the answer is always yes. This is GenealogyX, where ancient DNA turns history into living memory. If this story changed the way you see humanity, subscribe and journey with us to discover more ancestors whose lives are hidden in our cells. Now tell us in the comments, if you could meet that Neanderthal family for one night, what would you ask them? For one night, what would you ask them?